Good morning. Good morning, everyone. So today it's day 51 of compassionate response of our body to COVID-19, and I've been looking this week at Buddhist metaphysics, and so today we're coming on to in a way the central teaching of the Buddha, with the central doctrine of the Buddha. Something called Praticca Samutpada, or dependent arising, conditioned co-production. There's all sorts of terms for it, but I think it's good to just say conditionality. It's the fact that everything arises in dependence on conditions and ceases when those conditions cease. And this applies to material things in the world. It applies to biology. It applies in the realm of the mind, mental processes. It applies in the realm of ethics, so karma is part of this, and it applies in the realm of, in a way, higher teaching, or the influence of reality, which is something called the Dharma Nima. So today, I'm going to be looking at the wheel of life and the spiral path, and I'm going to be accessing some work that an order member called Jayarava has done. So he's a scholar, and he's done a lot of investigation in the Buddhist scriptures on conditionality, and he's done lots of investigation about all sorts of things. But he's done some great work in this area, just looking at all the different spiral paths that there are. So I'm going to try and I'm going to use a diagram that he produced to show all the variety really that's there, but also just to give us a sense of the commonality between things and what's the central message that's being given there. What's how the message about how we do make progress towards enlightenment through working with conditions. So that's later on. So I'll be going over to the kitchen studio and doing all that. But first of all, let's just check in with how we are. So just acknowledging how you are. What sort of sleep did you get last night? I find it a little bit hard to get to sleep because I've just been doing lots of preparation for today till quite late, and but it's okay. I'm okay. You just work with what's there. That's the spiritual path, is just keep seeing what's there. What do you need to do? What do you need to do next? What's the next action you need to take? What's out of balance? Do you need to do more exercise, or do you need to rest, or do you need to have something to eat, or do you need to meditate? Do you need to put some energy out and help people? Something like that. So Buddhism is often about looking for the imbalances in things and trying to redress them, bring all the conditions up to strength that we need to bring happiness into the world for ourselves and for others. So this is what Buddhism is all about. It's a soteriology, which means it addresses suffering. That's its aim. It's not a philosophy. Its aim is that. So everything needs to be seen in that context. We're looking to overcome suffering through the work that we do. So I think before we do any body work and then meditation, I thought I'd just start us off with a reading. So this is from a journal called The Middle Way, from May, June 1954. So that was the year I was born, October 1954. And it's by the well-known Buddhist scholar Edward Conzer, who did a lot of work on the perfection of wisdom literature in Buddhism. So here he's talking about he's talking about the kind of specific conditions that people look for in life. Like what often on the news you might get a reporter or interviewing somebody, and the person is often interested in, well, if there's been a burglary or something like that, or a crime committed, they want to know all the conditions that, how did this come about, looking for specific conditions in things. So he's talking about somebody's killed by a bullet. How far are we going to spread our net and search for relevant conditions? So everything arises and depends on conditions. So he's saying, the sun being there is a part of the condition. The man getting killed, the sun's part of the conditions. There's there's the motives of the person who did it. There's everything that brings about life is part of the conditions, so you can sort of go back infinitely to say, well, there's the background of the murderer. There's the background of the person who's killed and why he ended up in that place. And Conzer says there is a fundamental difference in the investigation of conditions from worldly and unworldly or spiritual motives. Where conditions are investigated in the interests of our survival, comfort or discomfort, danger or security, there we will regard those conditions as more interesting, relevant or decisive, which are the most specific to the event which has occurred. In our example above, the bullet will be regarded as specially important, and more general conditions like the existence of the atmosphere, the gravitation of the earth and so on as fairly irrelevant. It's quite different when we're concerned with our salvation. So we have Buddhism as a salvation without saviour, overcoming suffering, and regard contemplation of the event as an occasion for liberation from this world. Then the interest centres on its more general factors. Buddhists meditate on conditions in order to win salvation from all conditioned things, with a wish to reject them insofar as they are conditioned, thereby winning through to the unconditioned. So the unconditioned is enlightenment. In ordinary life, we're too absorbed in doing something about this particular object to lay stress on its general conditions, especially those in ourselves, which we're apt to take for granted. So I think what he's saying here is, it's like, well, what are the general? So you could say, well, you've got all the specifics of who was the, why the murder took place, but a more general condition that Buddhism would look at is like, well, what's the pattern in the universe that needs to be looked at here? And it would say, well, the pattern in the universe is like, are people being kind or not? So it's like it's not about the specifics. It's more about the general sense of like, is are those people in a kind relationship to each other? Is there a sense of connection there? That sort of thing. So when we're looking at spiritual life, we're looking at more general conditions like that are patterns, like ethical patterns in the universe. So anyway, I'll come on to this later. But first of all, we'll do a bit of body work and then some meditation. Okay. Okay, so begin by, let's do doing. So drumming with your fingers on your head. Notice how you're feeling at the moment. Rub your hands together. Put your down, brushing down your arms. And just put your forehead in palms of your hands. And turning your attention away from the world. And maybe bend your knees slightly and curving your back and neck over so that you're in a bit of a fetal position. And just enjoying the fact that you're holding your head. So your head doesn't need to feel like it's all on its own, it's being supported by your body. And just turning away from the world, so it's like we don't need to be expressing anything with our face or saying anything with our voice. Just letting let everything calm down, quieten down. The metabolism, your body, all the nerve endings that are there in your face and your hands and your feet, which are the bits of your body you use most to express things and manipulate things. Just let all of those nerve endings calm down, quieten down, come to rest. Take a few deeper breaths. And then give your face a bit of a wash with your hands. Just do this with your ears, just listen to the sound as you move your hands in and out towards your ears. So we're tuning into the world of physical experience. And then shake everything out, shake hands out and feet. And then on his chest. And then down the outside of your arms, onto the back of your hand, make it a little bit painful. The side. Palms of your hands. Try to get into the heel of your hand and maybe do that sort of movement, like chop into your different parts of your palm and heel of your hand to open it up. Going to the other side. When you're doing this sort of thing, you can just make it up really, you know, what works. What do you need right now? Maybe band both heels of your hands together. Shake your hands out, and then just drumming lightly on the back of your on your kidney area. So sometimes the lighter, more subtle the movement, the more powerful it can be. So sometimes just the gentle massaging of our kidney area can have quite an effect on our back and our energy levels. Then onto your buttocks and the backs of your legs. And then go down your legs as far as you can go. And shake everything out. Hands and feet, head. Do a little bit of jumping up and down on the spot. Okay, and then taking a seat for meditation. Morning, Sumna. Okay, so I've done all this, lots of preparation this morning and last night. And there's lots of diagrams involved here. But actually, I'll just say something about that. So, like when we have models and things, models and diagrams and all that sort of thing, sometimes people can kind of complain and go, "Oh, this is all heady, what about our experience and all that sort of thing? Well, yeah, that's true. It's not about, the point isn't about an intellectual understanding of things. The point is to have some sort of roadmap whereby we know how things work. So that's the point of having concepts and models and that sort of thing. They give us a sense of what conditions affect what other conditions, that sort of thing. So it's not random. Like the universe isn't just this random amorphous mass with no structure to it. It has a structure. So a model does that. It does this. It just tries to point towards what the structure might be. But then we then have to work with our experience to try and get to where we want to get to. And interestingly enough, we've got all these kind of models to do with conditionality, wheel of life and spiral path and all that. But a simple way of looking at conditionality is that things are dharmata. So things are dharmata. So that means that things arise naturally when the conditions are there to bring those things about. So it's like a plant. It's like a beautiful plant that just organically grows. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for some sort of organic growth by paying attention to the actual conditions that are present, so that we get the growth that we're looking for. And it is an organic process, but we pay attention to what's needed, like some fertilizer and sun and watering and all that sort of thing. So so just to mention that and try and keep that in mind today with the topic. So we're going to do some grounding meditation, and so here what we're doing is we're looking at the actual conditions that we're in, our situation, asking what our situation is, and then addressing that, becoming aware of it, and then when we become aware of it, we can actually work with it because we know what's happening, we know what the situation is, what's where, what's what realm different things exist in. So just begin by settling into your meditation posture. And contacting the energy that is there in your body, that came from doing the body work. So try to have a sense of the way that you sit is actually encouraging that energy to continue. So we're just going to look at what's the situation that we're in. So what is the case? So first of all, it's the case that we're a human being. Well, unless there's some gods watching, they're meditating as well, of course. We're a human being and we exist in time and space. We're alive, exist in time and space. So first of all, have a sense of time, of the dimension of time. So just having a sense of all the moments of experience that you've had in the past. and also all the moments you will experience in the future, hopefully. And that right now you exist in a particular moment in time, which is the present moment. So in a way, just waiting for yourself to arrive into the present moment, which is where your life is actually happening right now. Sometimes you just have to give things time. In meditation, when we're trying to make something happen, it has its own time that it works in. So we're not trying to impose our will on things. Just wait for the conditions to be right for us to arrive into the present moment. So, as well as existing in time, you also exist in space. So, having a sense of the dimension of space, that you're sitting on the Earth, which is a huge ball of matter flying through space. So gradually letting that fact dawn on you. And then above your head is the atmosphere of the Earth, which is about 10 miles thick. And then that atmosphere gradually thins out, and then you enter vast empty space. Where every now and then there might be a star, a galaxy or something, but not a lot often. It's absolutely huge distances out there. So the Earth is covered in oceans, ice caps, land masses, deserts and forests, farmland, mountain ranges. And you're at a particular place on the Earth. So wherever that is, just letting it dawn on you that this is where you are on the Earth. And just being patient, just allow yourself to just arrive into that place in your own time when the conditions are right. Maybe just waiting until you arrive in the place where you are. So as well as being a human being who exists in time and space, what else can we say is the case? Well, it's the case that we have a body with us all the time. So just being aware of your body. And that body is a physical object in the physical world. So just allowing yourself to be aware of the physicality of your body, and the sensations that are taking place in your body because of your sense of touch. So gradually becoming aware of your body as a physical object. And then it's also the case that your body has a particular structure to it. So it's got bones that support its weight, and it's got muscles that move the body about, organs that keep it alive in various ways. So just allowing it to become apparent to you that the structure of your particular body, what that is, sensing where the bones are and where the muscles are, where the organs are. And then trying to align yourself with that truth so that you allow the bones of the body to take the weight, and the muscles to become soft if they're not being used, and the organs to quieten down. So we don't need to be doing very much in this position. So it's quite good to have a sense of disengaging our mind and emotions from looking after our body, from anything, any interference with the body, so the body can just sit there. It knows how to sit down, it doesn't need any help from your mind to do that. All you need to do is just balance your spine so that the weight goes down vertically into the ground. And your mind and emotions are not engaged with the body, but instead they feel supported by the body to be in whatever state that they're in. And then taking your attention to the muscles of the body. And as it were, seeing things from the perspective of the muscles of the body. So that if the bones of the body are taking the weight, then the muscles can feel confident that they can just let go. They don't need to be holding on for any reason. So reflecting that relaxation is just like unfurling a fist. It's a physical action rather than a mental action, so having a sense of unfurling any tension in the body as if we're just unfurling a fist. And just allowing that tension in our imagination. The imagination seems to be falling away towards the ground. And if there's any residual tension there, we can just imagine that our breath is passing through that tension and softening it, relaxing it. And noticing how we're feeling at the moment. Being softly receptive to how we feel. And having a sense of wishing ourselves well. So now just beginning to slowly bring your meditation to a close. Becoming aware of the world outside. Being aware of your senses, sights and sounds. Maybe gently moving your limbs a little bit. Bring your meditation to a close. Okay, so moving on to today's topic. I don't know if it was a bit incoherent earlier, talking about Edward Conzer. Yeah, no, I think that that was something that really struck me when I was trying to find the bit where he talks about people focusing on specific conditions and people focusing on general conditions. And that might have been it, actually, that bit I read. So, yeah, it's a bit obscure. It's a bit hard to understand, I think. But yeah, the spiritual person is kind of interested more in the general patterns of things, you know. So that's why they don't sort of seek to just kind of nail everything down too much, but just to look at, like, how are they doing? You know, what are they doing? Are they being kind? Are they being generous? Are they practicing the precepts? Are they being truthful? So these are all kind of ethical patterns that we could say are patterns in the universe that bring about happiness, generally speaking. You know, whereas if you sort of thinking of you're not thinking in those terms, but thinking, oh, what do I need to do to bring about happiness? Then the focus can be quite narrow and maybe a bit outside of oneself, rather than looking at our own actions and inside ourselves. So today I've got the task of trying to adequately talk about conditionality, and I must admit there's a bit of nervousness there, because this is the central teaching of the Buddha. I have talked about it quite a bit in the past, you know, when I've talked about the Buddha's teaching on mindfulness and how the four foundations of mindfulness kind of condition each other, and seeing things in that way actually explains quite a lot. But today I'm going to look at the traditional teachings on Pratitya Samutpada, or conditionality, and I'm going to use material from Jayarava, who's an order member. I think he's in Cambridge. He's got a website, a blog called Jayarava's Raves, and it's amazing. You know, you kind of like do a serious, very serious, scholarly, thoughtful article. Like, I don't know if he did one a week or something, on things like the Heart Sutra and conditionality, and you name it. You know, it's there. So yeah, I just really recommend that. I'll put a link to his site up. But yeah, so we'll move over to the kitchen and look at the material. So I'm just drawing on Jayarava's article, Complexity and Simplicity in Doctrine, from March 2011, and he produced this diagram. This isn't it. This is the wheel of life and the spiral path. But we'll look at his diagram later on. But he says that you got two aspects to conditionality. The lokia, which is like of the world. It's like the wheel of life, and then you've got lokutra, which is like beyond the world, the world moving up towards enlightenment. So this is the five Buddha mandala, which is representing enlightenment, the five wisdoms, yeah. So what normally happens is we're on the wheel of life. We're here. This is the world of ordinary life, conditioned existence, or samsara, and in the centre of the wheel is the three things that drive conditioned existence. So unenlightened experience is driven by greed, hatred and delusion. And what happens is we experience a kind of, sometimes we kind of going up in the white segment. Human beings and other beings are kind of like, we're being ethical, we're being less greedy, hateful and deluded. So things improve for us. And then sometimes we're having greed, hatred and delusion, we're falling down into more hellish states. So this is expressing the idea that actions have consequences. When we act skillfully, things improve for ourselves and others, and when we act unskillfully, by definition we cause harm. So through the action of greed, hatred and delusion, or the inhibition of that, we enter different realms. So you've got what are called the six realms of conditioned existence. So you've got the human realm, which is the one we're in now, and in the human realm, there's a kind of, it talks about pleasure and pain woven fine. So it's a bit like we have pleasure, but we have pain, and things go well, we suffer, and in a way, it's seen as the best place to get to enlightenment from, because in a way it's the most realistic. That's how life is. There is pleasure and there is pain in it. But sometimes we might be in a God realm, so we might be. Everything's going really well, and it seems to have been going really well for a long time, and we've got a good reputation. People like us. Everything's just working well, But maybe we've got into the God realm because we've been building up our reputation with people. We've been being skillful and helpful and all that, and that's how we rise up into the God realm. But the God realm is impermanent. Even the gods, while they last a long time, and have long lives, it's like they fall out. It's not a permanent state. So we can end up being in the God realm, take it for granted, and then things change, and we can't cope with it because we're so used to everything going well all the time, and we might just fall directly into the hell realm, which is intense suffering all the time. So you've got these realms: the God realm, hell realm, humans, the animal realm, where everything's about survival. So we might think, life's just it's just a rat race, and I can't put my head. I can't. All I can do is to just get enough money to survive, and then through each week, the hungry ghost, which is the realm of unsatisfied desire. So the hungry ghosts have like little tiny mouths and huge bellies, and whatever they take in doesn't satisfy them. And then the titans, you could say it's a bit like a state of addiction. And then you've got the titans, which are the jealous gods. And then on the outside of the wheel of life, you've got the 12 links, nidanas, of conditioned existence. So this is the way that conditionality is normally talked about in the Buddhist tradition, and so the wheel starts with ignorance. So we have a vidya. God, it's going to take ages doing this. I've got to realise, blimey. I need to cut it short. Okay, basically, yeah. So we've got ignorance leads to karma formations, volitional action. So it's like, because we're ignorant, we act in a particular way. And the image is a potter at a wheel. So each has an image. So it's a blind man with a stick, a potter at a wheel. So because of our ignorance, we make a particular type of world. We make a pot that's a particular shape. And then we have that leads to us having a particular type of consciousness. So, the way that we shape our world, then we act in that world with a particular type of consciousness. The image there is a monkey up a tree, picking fruit. So it's like the mind is like often looking for something to satisfy it. It has that sort of consciousness. But it could have a more expansive type consciousness as well, And then that consciousness then like manifests in a mind and body, nama rupa. So we become a particular type of person because of our consciousness. And in a way, these different realms are all manifestations of different types of consciousness. And then because we've got that particular form, then we're in the world with a particular form. And then we have the 6 sense spheres, the 6 sense organs. So we've got sight, sound. We've got eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. So mind is a sense as well in Buddhism. And then because we've got those 6 senses, in dependence on that, we come into contact with the world. So we have we see sight, so we hear sounds. We have experience, and then whatever that experience is leads to a particular type of feeling or Vedana. So, we see something and it's unpleasant, or we see something and it's pleasant. And then Vedana then tends to lead to craving. So we want what's pleasant, we don't want what's unpleasant. So anyway, craving, or you could put hatred there as well. We have aversion to things that are unpleasant. And then, because we're craving things, we grasp at them. We grasp them. We move towards them. And then we becoming bhava, we become a particular type of person. So for instance, if we have craving for a cigarette, we grasp a cigarette, and then we become a smoker. That becomes the pattern of our life. And then the person we become is then subject to birth. So we're born as a particular type of person, as a smoker, and then to the extent that smoking doesn't lead to nirvana, and is subject to, it doesn't satisfy us on a sort of deeper level, then it's we have old age, sickness, old age and death. So in a way we haven't overcome the problems of life through smoking. It hasn't worked. Our life still collapses. It's not a kind of a satisfying refuge. And then we go around again. So we go, because it hasn't worked. We're still ignorant, and we try something else, or even we just carry on out of ignorance, thinking, I need to maybe try harder with craving or something. So it's like we just go round and round the wheel. But there's also the spiral. So you could see the spiral as like coming off from here in another dimension. It's almost like spiraling outward. This is the flat plane, and then we're spiraling up, and we're being influenced by the transcendental, which is over here. So it's almost like we're bringing in another element, and you could say that is something called the Dharma. The Dharma Niyama. So the Dharma Niyama is the influence of the Buddha, the influence of anything, any aspect of reality. So what happens is we come, if we can, so all of this here is just presented to us. This is called vipaka, or the fruit of karma vipaka, the fruit of our actions. And then from here is karma. And then rebirth. So we're presented with this, but here is where we have the choice. This is the gap. So if we don't react with craving when faced with feeling, or we don't, or with hatred, but something else, so what can that other thing be? So in earlier sessions, I talked about the four foundations of mindfulness: body, feeling, mind, and emotions and views. So here we've got feeling again. So when we're going around the wheel, it's like we're only going around the wheel. It's not the craving, which is an emotion up here, isn't only influenced by feeling. It's not just feeling leads to craving. Feeling leads to craving if we have a particular view about things. Like if our view is like hedonism, if we think that we have to pursue pleasure at all costs and get away from pain at all costs. But if our view is something else, if it views that Buddhism is a refuge, that the teaching of the Buddha is helpful, then what can happen is we can have faith instead of craving. We have faith in the three jewels because we've tried it. We've tried being ethical, and we've seen that it works. We've tried being patient with our feeling. We've tried focusing on thinking about others rather than just focusing on how we're feeling. So the fact that there's a second condition there as well as feeling in another dimension in a way means that so mind is influenced by views as well as by feeling, emotions. Mind as emotions is influenced by views as well as feeling. So I did some study with one of our senior order members called Sagramati. He was our top scholar in our movement, and he talked about the idea that it's like these are just not. It doesn't mean with this as a condition. With dukkha, so dukkha's here. Dukkha's this wheel, really, the pain of being on the wheel. So with dukkha as a condition, faith, shraddha arises, comes to be. But he says it's not that, it's more in close association with dukkha arises shraddha. So it's a bit like, this is like saying, it's not just this condition leads to that. It's like in close association with this, that arises, but also in close association with this, that arises. So it's multiple conditions that bring something about, not single conditions. So sometimes people talk about causality when they're talking about conditionality. They say it's causality, but that's a wrong view. It's like conditionality is about multiple conditions coming together. So we're always working with the four foundations of mindfulness we're trying to bring all the conditions up. So we work with our body, we work with our mind. We do meditation, like in that meditation we did earlier. We worked with having a realistic view of our situation, and this, for me, it helps me to just become calmer because I was working with all the different conditions that are present there. So what we have is the wheel of life, the normal our unenlightened existence, and then we've got this spiral that's coming off it, and there's a sequence here of faith or confidence, shraddha, and then you've got joy, rapture, calming down, pacification, bliss or happiness, concentration, and then knowledge and vision of things as they really are, which is the point of some sort of insight. And then you've got withdrawal. So it's a bit like you sort of see the things that are not helpful, and you disentangle yourself from them. So the image used is of a man putting his hand in some water, and when he pulls it out, there's a snake wrapped around his arm, and on the forehead of the snake are 3 marks. So these are the 3 marks of conditioned existence: that things are impermanent, inherently involved with suffering, and don't have in a way kind of essence to them. So when we see that the things that that we've been relying on in the wheel aren't actually that are impermanent or unsatisfactory, when we let go of those as refuges, then we disentangle ourselves from them, and we start to move more towards states that are not dominated by greed, hatred, and they're dominated by their opposites, by contentment, by compassion, by awareness, those sorts of things. So we become dispassionate about the world of this world, the world of unsatisfying things that ultimately are unsatisfying. And we become liberated. With that dispassion, we then become liberated. And the final nidana, the final link, is knowledge of the destruction of the biases. So I talked about that the other day in the talk on the Buddha's enlightenment. So, we know that we've overcome all the tendencies that pull us back towards samsara. So I know for some of you this will be familiar, and I'm trying to bear in mind different audiences. So here what we've got is Jayarava's mega diagram. And what he's done is so we have this we have different descriptions of the path of the spiral path here, but there's similarity. These are different these are different sutras in the Pali Canon, but you've got a real commonality. So, and there's three basic. Oh wow, that is a diagram, isn't it? I'll share it later. So you've still got a basic structure. So basically, up to here you've got ethics, and then from here to here you've got meditation, and then from here up to here you've got wisdom. So this is the threefold path: ethics, meditation, and wisdom. And so, for instance, in one particular sutta, I don't know what the name is, Anguttara Nikaya 881. You have in the ethics bit, you've got sati sampajanya, recollection and continuity of purpose, leads to hri ottappa, shame and moral dread. These are the two protectors of the world. Leads to indriya samvara, restraining the senses, leads to sila, good conduct. And then in this spiral path it goes straight to concentration, and then knowledge and vision of things as they really are, disgust, dispassion, liberation, knowledge and vision of liberation. So that's that one. It misses out joy, rapture, tranquility, happiness. Okay, here's another one, the Upanishad Sutta, which is the main one that we use in Triratna. You've got suffering, faith, joy, rapture, tranquility, happiness, concentration, knowledge and vision of things as real, etc. up to there, right? With the Dasutra Sutta, you've got wise attention, and then straight to joy, rapture, etc. With SN 55.40, sounds like Star Trek, you've got perfect faith in the three jewels, striving for solitude, dwelling vigilantly. So this is all ethics. You've got joy, rapture, etc. With the Pamada Vihari Sutra, you've got guarding the senses, unsoiled mind, joy, rapture, happiness, blah, blah. With AN 10.1-5, you've got skillful conduct, clear conscience, joy, rapture, happiness. With the Visuddhimagga, you've got Vinaya, discipline, restraint, clear conscience, joy, rapture, happiness. With the Vatu Parma Sutta, you've got defilements of mind, abandoning defilements, perfect faith in the three jewels, knowledge of the letter and spirit, that's interesting, isn't it? Joy, rapture, happiness, etc. And then with the Samanaphala Sutta, which is the fruits of the spiritual life, you've got a Buddha arrives in the world, someone hears the Dharma, faith in the Buddha, going forth, restraint, morality, guarding the doors of the senses, Sati and Sampajanya, that's mindfulness and clear comprehension, contentment, abandoning the hindrances, joy, rapture, happiness, and so on. Interestingly, you also have the Bodhipaksha Dharmas, which there's a kind of spiral path there. So the factors of awakening form a similar spiral path. So you've got sati, mindfulness, you've got investigation of dharmas, energy or virya, rapture, pacification, concentration, equanimity. So what can we say about all this? So basically, all these sutras are all saying something a bit different about ethics, but it's all basically the same thing. It's all basically the same. There's a sense in which we kind of like have a sense of suffering, which comes from seeing the faults of conditioned existence, and then we do something like go for refuge. We see what Buddhism is, what Buddhism's teaching. We resonate with it in some way. We have some sort of faith in it. It seems to work. It seems to make sense. It seems to work in experience. It seems to feel right. We then start practicing it, skillful conduct, dwelling vigilantly. It starts to work. We practice our ethics and we get a clear conscience or unsoiled mind, or we abandon the hindrances. And then on that basis of clear conscience, unsoiled mind, abandoning hindrances, we then start to experience the fruits of the spiritual life. So here we are, Samanaphala Sutta, the fruits of the spiritual life. So joy arises, right? So we have joy, pramodya, and it's because things are working. It's because we're relying more on ourselves on our meditation practice rather than on the world outside of ourselves. We're not looking outside for satisfaction of sense desires, but we're looking for what are called spiritual feelings. So we look for happiness in things like delight in others doing well, or something like that, or delight in being able to live on less, or delight in just our body through meditation, being able to really calm our body and develop a real peacefulness in our body. So that just becomes a joy that doesn't have a downside. There's nobody, if we can, as long as we can keep doing it ourselves, then we are in control of it. It's like it's not, when we die or when we get ill or whatever it is, it gets taken away from us. But in the moment when we're still alive, we can work with with our body, we can experience, we can make it a really nice source of energy for us. And then so then we're going up the dhyanas here. Where I talked about the dhyanas in previous sessions. Higher states of consciousness, rapture. We feel inspired. We feel so rapture isn't rapture isn't a kind of worldly rapture, which might be a kind of sensory rapture that we might get through sex or food or whatever it is, or which is subject to decay, which is subject to not being there at times, so it's not that. It's more the spiritual rapture. It's more the satisfaction that comes from spiritual practice, and then that leads to passaddhi, which is, as I talked about before, it's got these qualities of buoyancy. It's not just calm; it's also buoyancy, effectiveness, adaptability of mind and emotions and body. Being proficient in things, being ethically upright, is all passaddhi. Is like we're developing real qualities, real neural plasticity in our mind and emotions and body. That's what they would say in secular mindfulness, neural plasticity. The Mind and Life Institute would be talking about that. And then on that basis we get to the third dhyana, where it's dominated by happiness, by bliss, by becoming really capable. We really are able to do things, and so we feel happy that we kind of become master of our life in a way, and then we can really concentrate then at that point. Interestingly, here in this sutta, it's at the Vatupama Sutta. After concentration, you get abides in the Brahma Viharas, knowledge of escape beyond the perceptual situation, liberation of mind. So here we've got a path which is emphasising loving kindness beyond concentration, the loving kindness aspect of insight. And then we get to this point, which is in the diagram here. It talks about the point of no return. So we develop knowledge and vision of things as they really are. So this is the point of stream entry, where we're guaranteed to become enlightened because of the momentum that we've built up, And in a way, it's about right view. So we have right view. We have right view. Right view with ashravas. So we still have these unconscious tendencies that need to be transformed, but we're pointing in the right direction. And then at enlightenment, we get to right view without ashravas, without any tendencies towards some samsara. So then we go up the final nidanas up towards enlightenment. So I just thought it'd be interesting for you to see some of this, because we're just used in Sri Ratna seeing the Upanishad Sutta, which is this one here, but there are all these other ones, and in the sutta called the Chaitanya Sutta, it says, I don't think we've got it here, but it says it's not through we have the idea that of dharmata, naturalness. So it's like it's not through an act of will that if this was the case, it's not through an act of will that skillful conduct leads to a clear conscience. A clear conscience naturally arises when skillfulness is fully developed. We just have a clear conscience, and then when we've got a clear conscience, it's natural that we experience joy, because we feel light, and nothing's burdening us. So all of these arise naturally in dependence on the previous one being satisfied. So I think I have talked about this before. And in the can you see that one? In the Wheel of Life, you have different ones as well. Different, this is the main standard model of the 12 Nidanas, but in one here it goes clinging, craving, grasping, becoming, birth, death, exception, food, movements. What's that about? I don't know. You've got one here that goes Vedana, recognition, thinking, proliferation, tendency to proliferation, thinking, desire, likes and dislikes, jealousy and avarice. So you have, and then here you've got Vedana leads to, this is in Digha Nikaya 15, seeking, acquisition, decision making, lustful desire, attachment, appropriation, avarice, guarding possessions, disputes. So it's interesting that you've got different versions of the Wheel of Life as well as of the spiral. So I hope that's I hope I've covered everything that everything relevant. So we need to kind of like relax about models really like this. I mean, I think if you just see what the main patterns are of things, that's what often what a model is for. Just sort of see that we don't need to worry about the fact that there are all these different spiral paths, but they're just different. They're just kind of different expressions of certain principles that's what we need to connect with. So the principle of ethics, clear conscience, building up your meditation practice, and on that basis, developing wisdom and moving towards enlightenment. And this idea that we have a choice, and often the things that we have a choice about are up here, these two, mind and emotions and views. And we don't have a choice about these two down here. So if we work on our views about things, then and turn them into right view, then we're going to start going up the spiral path. To the extent we have wrong views, we're going to just be going around the Wheel of Life. Okay, that's it for today. So thanks everybody, and see you tomorrow.